All right, here we go. Brand new Flyers Daily for the 17th of July, 2024. Flyers Daily, as always, presented by Ticketmaster. Make more memories live. 9187. What do those two numbers mean? No, it's not the jersey number of Steven Stamkos or Sidney Crosby. It's been 91 days since the Flyers wrapped up their season April 16th against the Washington Capitals, and it's 87 days until the Flyers open the 2024-25 season coming up in October. So that means, simple math tells me, we're more than halfway through the offseason. Now, as far as the offseason goes, most of the heavy lifting of the offseason is over. That kind of ends 48 hours into free agency on July 3rd, before the 4th of July even happens. Really, the most signings take place, the most trades. Obviously, the draft is about a week in the rearview mirror at that point. So most everything for the offseason is done. Now, still, obviously, things can happen. We just saw yesterday Quentin Byfield signed a 6-year extension with the Los Angeles Kings as a restricted free agent. Flyers have some players that can be extended, obviously, in Travis Konechny and Cam York. We've seen some extensions already, whether it's Eric Johnson or Yegor Zamula or Garnet Hathaway. So we've seen some of those things take place. So still more things can happen. But as we count down the days, now 87 days until the Flyers drop the puck on the 24-25 season, it is that kind of that time of year. I'm going through the process now, the beginning stages, if you will, of how to set my initial expectations. Now, one of the people that you're going to hear from in this episode is going to be Denver Barkey. It's my anticipation that Denver Barkey is not ready for the NHL, so he's not going to factor in to that equation, although I think he's going to be an intriguing player to watch coming up in training camp, as I think a bunch of players are, guys that could push the envelope, and not the least of which to mention is Matvei Michkov. But we're in that phase now of, okay, we are totally turned the page on the 23-24 season. Now we're counting down the days more than halfway in the offseason for the Flyers to the 24-25 season. And is it a year where they will meet expectations? They will meet the same benchmarks and bar that they met last year? Or will they exceed that? Will they come in under that? So I'm starting to put together all of those pieces of that equation. And there's some really big pieces that before I set my own expectations that I have to come to terms with. Goaltending is a big one of those pieces. And I don't mean just Ersson and Fedotov. Obviously, there was a lot of chatter on social media regarding Kolosov missing a flight. And this could all end up being much to do about nothing. But there has been a lot of smoke around this situation with Alexei Kolosov. And I know some people are saying, it's not that big of a deal if he stays over. He's a high-end goalie prospect. And if you have a high-end goalie prospect, you want to see that through to fruition. You can never have enough high-end goalie prospects. You don't know where one's going to go sideways. You don't know. So it is something I'm concerned about. More immediately, I have to wrap my head around what the goaltending is going to be for this team as I set my expectations for this season with Ivan Fedotov, who's played in parts of 3 NHL games, and Sam Ersson. The Carter Hart era in Philadelphia is over. What does it look like going forward? That's something I got to really kind of evaluate when I'm setting these expectations. I don't like to go into a season and say, last year they got 88 points or they got 82 points, and this year the natural progression is 5 more points beyond that, 3 more wins, 6 standings point, whatever it might be. I can't, to me, that's going into the season and setting an expectation ignorantly. You have to evaluate on everything. They had 87 points last year. Am I holding to that expectation on what this team is this year? I don't know yet. there's a lot of huge questions to be answered. Now, some of them we can make evaluations and some prognostications, but let's be honest. When it comes to evaluating the impact that Matvei Michkov's going to have on this team, nobody knows. Matvei Michkov doesn't know. So that's going to be a tough part of the equation. Is another part of the equation going to be another growth year for Cam York? Is Sanheim going to get off to a great start and make it more sustainable through the season? What is Sean Couturier? After last season, great start to the year, hit a miserable second half, and he's coming off a core surgery, as is Jamie Drysdale. There's a lot of question marks. So I'm beginning to go through these permutations and calculations and evaluations to start to be able to set what is, I think, for me, and what I value, will be reasonable expectations. I've said it before, and I'll say it again. Expectations are the key to sanity in sports. If you're one of those people that gets just huge expectations and they very rarely get delivered on, you're probably miserable most of the time. I would say when you're setting your expectation, do as much homework and due diligence as you can so that you can set a reasonable expectation. You don't just set a low expectation so that you surpass it, because that's BS. Set a reasonable expectation on the things you know, the unknowns, how they may or may not pan out, and then you go from there. And expectations are fine if you can change them. You can change expectations in a season. There's no rule against that. But you have your initial expectations. And I have some really big questions. And I don't know if they're going to be a team that's going to take an incremental step forward in points percentage in the standings. I don't. Could that be the case and it still be a step forward? I suppose. We're in a rebuild. This is a year of waiting out some dead money and some contracts to really, I think, move a big step forward next offseason. That being said, if they get off to a good start and the team captures what they captured last year through 80% of the season, the word that Torts used quite a bit was belief. If they capture that belief again, can they ride that? Sure. Is it more likely or less likely that to happen again this year? I think less. But that's where I am, at least initially. Again, as I go through this process of permutations, evaluations, and assumptions, everything's got a shins on the end, to come up with as close to a educated and reasonable expectation for this season that I can. We'll go through the individual elements of those and at position by position, kind of goaltending, defense, offense, special teams, penalty kill. Obviously, power play needs to be just massively improved. Penalty kill, can it live up to what it did last year? There's all of these questions, and we'll go through them. We'll do them here on the podcast, and we'll come up, before the month of September hits, we'll come up with what I'll come up with my reasonable expectations. I'd love to get people's feedback here early on what kind of where they are preliminarily speaking, if that's a word, on their expectations right now. Do you expect them to be better than they were last year where they had 87 points? Yeah, they played game 82 fighting for a playoff spot. Part of that was also that nobody ran away with it. But what are your expectations at this point? And are you going to do that deep dive and really dissect it down to come up with what your expectations are going to be for this year? We'll see. You can always tweet me at Jason Myrt, JASON, MYRT. You can DM me there as well. You can send me emails, jason.myrtetus, MYRTETUS @gmail.com. Let's get to our feature interview. We did this at development camp, and this is a player that's got a lot of Flyer fans excited. He was taken in the third round, 95th overall back in the 2023 entry draft, so just a little over a year ago. In his draft year, heading into that draft, Denver Barkey played 61 games. He had 22 goals, 37 assists, and 59 points. So just below a point-per-game player in his 17-year-old year and draft year for the London Knights. Then last year, after his draft year, draft plus one, with the London Knights once again. 64 games played. He had 35 goals, 67 assists, and 102 points. He had 27 points in 18 playoff games. He had 24 points in 20 playoff games the year prior. So that tells me in 38 playoff games, he has got is that the right math? 38 playoff games. He's got a total of 52 points. Good performance. Very good performance this year. Really took a big step forward. So let's get to know him a little bit better. Here is Flyers forward prospect Denver Barkey. Flyers Daily from Prospect Camp as the rookies, the prospects, the draft picks all come into town and get some summer skating in. And we're sitting with Flyers prospect right now from the London Knights, Denver Barkey. Denver, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
You had a good season.
Yeah, thank you.
Feel pretty good coming out when the season finally ends and you guys played a lot.
Yeah.
Do you look back on it and go, that was a good year? That's what I'm going to remember for a long time.
Yeah, obviously going that far was it was a cool experience. You know, it's draining, it's tiring, but you know, you make friendships and memories that last a lifetime. So it was a really good experience.
What is, going through that playoff run?
Yeah.
I just think playoff runs, no matter where they are so important because of the intensity just goes through the roof when it's a playoff. Well, what did that teach you, that playoff run? I mean, you played 18 games in the playoffs.
Yeah. So I think the year before that, even we went all the way and we came up short in the finals. And I think going through that whole process and kind of getting my first taste of what playoffs is like, and when you go on a deep run and then to come up short, it's pretty heartbreaking. It leaves a bitter taste in your mouth. And I think this year, our whole team, including myself, we remembered that feeling and how hard it was to get all the way and lose, and to go through that whole playoff run again this year and come up and win was really good. And I think it teaches you a lot of ways, or a lot of things, different ways to win in playoffs. It gets tough at times. You're going to have suspensions, injuries, adversity, and it teaches you to kind of come together as a group and find a way to win no matter what. So
your draft year, you had 59 points in 61 games. Draft plus 1 year, in 64 games, you had 102 points. You came in and 35 goals, 67 assists. What was the difference? I mean, obviously a year older, but it sounds to me like you went to work in that offseason too.
Yeah, for sure. I think after the draft, I went back to the gym and, I spent a lot of time in the gym on the ice, just getting ready for main camp here. I wanted to be ready for that and wanted to prove myself, obviously. And then when I went back to London, I was ready. I was prepared. I put the work in all summer. I got the opportunity. I got the trust from Coach Dale, and he gave me a lot of opportunity and a lot of ice time, and I tried to make the most of it. And I think I did a pretty good job with it on both sides of the puck.
Yeah, Coach, it's easy for the coach to keep tapping you on the shoulder when you go out and do what you were doing. Talk about the bond you have with a guy like Oliver, because you're both drafted here, both playing in London. Such a great junior program. You mentioned Dale Hunter treats you guys like men and really prepares you to keep leveling up. But what's that bond been like with Oliver, who you were drafted with?
Yeah, it was. It's been really cool ever since day one. We got here at camp. We were obviously a little bit nervous. We didn't really know anyone, and just to have each other, familiar faces, it made it a lot easier, just the transition to come here for our first camp and to go through all 3 years that we've been in London together, and see each other grow as people and players. It's been really cool, and he's a really special player, but an even better person, and I've got to see that so many times, day in, day out, just how good of a person he is too, off the ice. And it's just something cool. It's a cool story to tell people how we've been able to come together.
Unique bond.
Yeah, exactly. And it's been cool to spend these years with him, watching each other grow and take big steps in our lives. So
if you were to go through your T-shirt drawer at home, would you find a Bumper Bonk shirt in there?
Yeah, you might. I probably buried it at the bottom somewhere, but yeah, you could probably find it somewhere.
It's pretty cool.
Yeah.
What's it like being back here? You were here last year. Obviously, the lay of the land a lot more this year. There's a comfortability in that for sure. What's it been like, just to get back? I know you guys really haven't gotten back out on the ice and everything, but I kind of have a level of expectation of what this is all about now.
Yeah, exactly. Like you said, it's you're more comfortable. There's more people that or you remember coaches, all the staff, and stuff like that. And last year was more of kind of welcome. You get to meet everyone and just feel it out. And this year's more of it's more business, and you want to keep on proving yourself and show the big steps that you've made in your game. And obviously, just a good time to enjoy the time in Philadelphia. You know, we're gonna do some cool things outside of the rink as well.
Yeah.
This week, and then obviously meet the new draft picks and the new kids as well, and you know, build friendships.
Do you know Jet Lachenko at all?
He's
a London kid.
Yeah.
That plays in Guelph.
Yeah. So I didn't really know him personally off the ice. Obviously, he's a really good player, and I played against him all this year and last year. But no, I didn't really know him personally yet. But I actually met him last night at the hotel, and you know, excited to meet him and spend some time with him. And he's a great player.
Last thing for you. You know, you want to accomplish something at this camp. You want to make them, when this week is over and the scrimmage at the end of it's over, remember that you were here, flash at times in big ways. How do you do that, but not, and still be yourself, but not try and push too hard?
Exactly.
Kind of balance it.
Yeah, I think just stick to my strengths, and you know, I had a great year in London, and what I did in London was, you know, I compete. That's my biggest thing, and no matter how the game's going, you can always control your work ethic and how hard you compete. And I think that's the biggest thing for me is, you know, when I'm playing my best hockey, I'm competing, I'm working hard, I'm stealing pucks, little things like that. So just try to stick to my strengths.
Back pressure.
Not try to, yeah, exactly. Not try to do too much. Just stick to my game, stick to my strengths, and, you know, I should be able to, you know, show them what I can do. And, yeah.
Denver, thanks for doing this. Enjoy the week.
Thank you.
Great to catch up with Denver Barkey. One of the big concerns about Denver Barkey is obviously his size and that he needs to put more muscle on. And he's put a good amount on since he's been drafted already. And he is slight. And he is young looking. But he is 5'9". It's not like Nathan Gerby. He's not a tiny guy. And he's got some frame to put some muscle on. Physicality's never going to be his game. But I am really looking forward to see his training camp, training camp, preseason, and how things play out for him. He's a really motivated young man, and I think the future is bright for the third round pick, 95th overall for the Flyers. So thanks to Denver Barkey for taking the time to join us on this episode of Flyers Daily. And coming up on Friday, we will have Flyers goaltending prospect Carson Bjarnason. He'll be our guest here on Flyers Daily. And you know I love talking goaltending, so we'll do that as well. Everybody, have a good couple of days. We'll talk to you Friday on a brand new Flyers Daily.